Children's toys of today are incredibly advanced. Plush toys are cute and snuggly, and most robotic toys are of extremely high quality, and dolls resemble either endearing little babies or little grown-up versions of humans. Yet in the past, children were not so lucky. So get yourself comfy and let's take a look at 10 terrifying toys from the past. Number 10. The Mini Guillotine. During the French Revolution, 2-foot guillotines were a popular children's toy. Children used them to chop off the heads of dolls, birds, and even mice. Interestingly though, some salon owners used to use these toys to amuse their guests by using small enemy dolls that were filled with fake blood and decapitated. This is a shockingly messed up toy for children. I mean, can you imagine babysitting your relative's little one and they bring over their favourite toy, the guillotine? Nope. In the 1970s, American shops unbelievingly tried to reintroduce this violent toy for children, but the parents protested and the terrifying toy guillotine was removed from the market for good. Number 9. Gilbert U-238 Atomic Energy Lab. The Gilbert U-238 Atomic Energy Lab was an elaborate nuclear lab test produced for children in 1951. It cost around $50 at the time, and it included 3 very low-level radioactive sources, a Wilson cloud chamber, 4 samples of uranium-bearing ores, and an electroscope to measure radioactivity. Alfred Carlton Gilbert, the inventor of the set, claimed that the radioactive materials provided in the set were absolutely safe. Today, however, we know that exposure to the U-238 isotope is linked to cancer, leukemia, lymphoma, Gulf War syndrome, and other serious ailments. Fortunately, the terrifying radioactive learning set ran for only 1 year, from 1951 to 1952, before it was taken out of circulation for good. Number 8. Creeping Baby Doll. Released in 1871, the Creeping Baby Doll was an extremely creepy Victorian doll that was supposed to depict a crawling baby. Although it was the first crawling children's doll, it did not appeal to little girls because it looked extremely scary, weighed quite a lot, and wasn't interactive enough. Now, to be fair, when I saw a photo of this doll, I literally thought it was a poster for a new horror movie, so I can totally understand why kids did not warm to these dolls. What's even more disturbing is that crawling was known as creeping before the mid-1800s, and creeping was seen as an activity of animals and crazy people. But sometime in the mid-1800s, crawling became normal and dolls with clockwork elements became popular. I'm just glad that these days, crawling babies don't look like demonic monsters. Number 7. Baby's First Butcher Shop. Now, I have no idea what was going through people's minds back then, but Baby's First Butcher Shop just sounds absolutely ridiculous in today's world. But anyway, in Victorian times, gruesome looking doll-sized butcher shops were all the rage as an alternative to regular dolls' houses. Although they looked quite terrifying, they were incredibly popular with less squeamish children. These butcher shops were an exact representation of actual butcher shops and included wooden butchers and their assistants in striped aprons, strings of sausages, and whole miniature carcasses hanging from real iron hooks, and floors covered with sawdust and blood. In Victorian times, it was very popular to the supermarket playsets that we have today, both with the purpose of learning about money and food. Number 6. Frozen Charlotte. Tiny unglazed porcelain dolls with no movable limbs were first manufactured in Germany in 1850 and sold as playmates for babies during bath time. However, the tiny white dolls soon became associated with popular poem of the day called Young Charlotte, written by Seba Smith. The poem was about a young woman who froze to death on New Year's Eve as she was riding in a sleigh with her sweetheart. The tiny German doll quickly became known as Frozen Charlotte in America. The dolls only cost 1 penny each. If having a doll that represented a frozen woman was not scary enough, they often came with their own coffins and blankets. In Britain, frozen Charlottes were often baked into cakes and puddings as a creepy surprise for kids at Christmas time. I mean, that's one way to teach your children about death, and of course to give them nightmares when they find a frozen Charlotte in their cakes. Number 5. Hugo, Man of 1,000 Faces. In 1975, US toy company Kenner introduced Hugo, Man of 1,000 Faces. It was a toy for children aged between 5 and 11 years old. Not only was Hugo bald-headed and bare-faced, he was also only half a man, whose body ended at the cuff of his blue shirt. Hugo's head was made of soft rubber and his arms were stuffed with cotton. If you pulled a string attached to him, you could make his arms move. Hugo came with disguises that could be glued onto him using only special glue. The toy's popularity didn't last beyond the 1970s. Perhaps this was because special glue sticks for sticking on disguises didn't last long, or just perhaps it was because he was so goddamn scary. Number 4. Furby. The Furby first appeared in US toy store shelves in 1998, and instantly everyone wanted one. Within 3 years, 40 million units had been sold. Furbies were small, robotic, furry toys that resembled owls with giant ears. They could talk, and sometimes they turned on completely by themselves. Most of the noises that they made was in the form of their own native language, as well as screeches and grunts. However, they did speak some English too. Supposedly, the more you talked around them, the more words and phrases they picked up. It is said that Furbies spoke to you during the night when you thought they were off. Sometimes they spontaneously spoke after their batteries had long been removed. The internet is full of horrifying stories involving these seemingly innocent creatures. There are stories where after the batteries had been removed, the Furbies woke up children in the middle of the night with phrases such as, "Do you want to play?" Now that is some seriously scary shit. Number 3. Live bird automata. Back in the 18th century, German toys could be rather creepy. Each automaton was a comic figure with a hollow space inside for the purpose of holding a real bird. Once you put a bird inside this figure, the figure would then start to move on its own and give the figure all kinds of special motions, but of course, the only reason why it's moving is because there is a live bird buried within this toy. This is some seriously messed up shit, and I bet back in the day there was so many dead birds within this toy just rotting away that kids had forgotten about. This is just really messed up, and I'm really glad that these toys aren't around anymore. Number 2. Baby Secret. Baby Secret was a creepy doll manufactured in 1966 by the Mattel Toy Company. About 45 centimeters tall, it had a soft baby body and a vinyl head. It wore a red dress and a white bib, and had an open mouth which moved when it talked. The doll's whisper feature worked when her pull string was pulled, but her voice was extremely terrifying and lifelike. The commercial for the Baby Secret secret doll was just as scary as the doll itself. It included the creepy demonic doll whispering phrases such as, "I want to tell you something," and "I like to sleep with you." Now, I'm not a doll making expert, but I'm pretty sure if you're going to make a doll for young children, it's probably better to make the voice of the doll just a little bit less terrifying. Number 1. Little Miss No Name. Little Miss No Name was a doll that was marketed by Hasbro Toy Company in 1965. The barefoot doll came dressed in a ragged sack and had enormous unblinking eyes and a taut little mouth. When extended, one of her hands made Little Miss No Name look like that she was begging. She also had a plastic tear on her cheek. The doll was supposed to tug at the heartstrings of little girls, but it had quite the opposite effect. Little girls wanted to run away screaming upon seeing the creepy Little Miss No Name. Hasbro continued production of the doll after only 1 year, although they tried offering her in a promotion with Borden's Dutch hot chocolate as a final attempt at popularizing the doll. But for some reason, however, children did not see the connection between a comforting cup of hot chocolate and the creepy doll. I mean, when I look at photos of these dolls, they literally scare me, and I'm a fully grown adult, so what hope did the kids have? And that was 10 terrifying toys from the past. Let me know in the comments box below, did you ever own any of these toys? Let me know which toy you think is the creepiest. Okay guys, well thank you all for sticking around until the end of the video. Make sure you smash that subscribe button and we will see you all again very soon.